Blue Blur Strikes Back is the conclusion for Sonic Begins. To me, might be my last one, but I doubt that for a minute, because I do have plans for another one. Not bigger plans, but smaller plans. Maybe that's. Maybe, let's continue on with the rest. Blue Blur Strikes Back is a story about basically when we get tired doing the same thing that we've done before, and back then we finally want to get rid of that part. We want to do what we've been doing for the rest of our lives and kind of go on to something else. The story is basically about Sonic retiring, but also coming back to help save the city, and also finally be able to get rid of Dr. Robotnik, aka slash Eggman. This one, I feel like it's the best conclusion of a character, not a character that I created, but a kind of a character I've grown to love ever since I was 4 years old. Ever since I was 4, matter of fact, no, ever since I was 8 years old, I always wanted to always picture them making a Sonic the Hedgehog movie. And I always kept rambling with ideas like, how it should be, how it should look, how it should, go, basically. But in this case, I really wanted to kind of tell the Sonic story I've always wanted to tell. Maybe not have in Sonic Begins, we had no plot, we had no story, we just had things kind of happen. So you might as well call it My Own Amazing Spider-Man 2. But Blue Blur Eggman's Revenge had at least a story in it, unless one of the characters explains what the story is, or yeah, that's basically it. I still consider Blue Blur Eggman's Revenge the best one of the best ones, because at least it tries to excel with action in some parts, and the special effects it took me forever to do the special effects, or in other words, the visual effects of Blue Blur Eggman's Revenge. But Blue Blur Strikes Back, I wanted to kind of go back. I wanted to kind of, tell a story. I didn't want to tell, I didn't want this to be like an all-out action movie where there was nothing but action, but no story. You could probably say that Sonic Begins was pretty much sort of like the games, like the original games, the Sega games. But, clearly, you get the idea that the games didn't really have much of a plot. Stuff just seems to just happen, and stuff just seemed to just kind of, went its own way. But in this case, stuff just happens in the first one. Second one, we kind of had a reason why stuff was happening, like Sonic getting his back broken. I had to get a new actor to play as Dr. Robotnik, and the other issue was, in the third movie, could I be able to get some of the same actors? Well, fortunately, I was able to get only 2 actors, and that's William Rye and Wonder Boy. The actor who I decided I had no choice but to replace was sadly Nate's character, Shadow. Nate, I was trying the movie, but, he just said he wasn't interested, so I wasn't really going to force him in the movie, because I don't want to do that. If they don't want to be in the movie, then I have to get a replacement. So, yeah, I can't force people to be in my movies because it's not how it works for me. But in this case, you know the what the story is basically about is Sonic. He wants to be rid of Dr. Robotnik, but when he gets injured, he's just like, I quit. I don't want to do this no more. But now, a year and 3 months later, Sonic ends up basically, well, getting overweight and kind of losing his, edge, if you think about it. Let's just say this. Let's just say since after we left school, not like high school or middle school, like say for instance, like for example, like if you go on to your summer vacation, you basically, you basically kind of forget stuff. For instance, if you're gone for the last 3 months, you kind of forgotten how to do like long divisions or equations or stuff like that. In this case, Sonic has forgotten how to fight, or in other words, he's forgotten to be his old self for the last year and 3 months. So I kind of used that as sort of like, what if we did forgotten how to fight if in the last 3 years and last year or 3 months basically. And what if we did forget how to basically, you know, do the stuff we were able to do before, but now we can't because we just haven't done it in a long time. So I kind of think about that as, yeah, use this as a better way of telling a story. So in this case, I actually came up with a script, ideas for that script, and certain scenes for that script also. Sometimes I didn't necessarily have to run with that script. I actually had to kind of come up with a script where I could do a scene with someone and also do what I did in the first film, improvise what everybody's line is. That's why some of the lines in the first one, I just came up with them on the top of my head. But instead, I basically did a different way in this one, where I actually came up, actually kind of like in the second one, I actually came up with a script and also improvise. So I did both of those at the same time, and I also, well, I wanted the final fight. The final fight, I really wanted to be at least epic. Like, it's an epic battle, epic fight. Like, it really has to be, like, not like realistically a good fight, but at least a decently realistically kind of fight, if you think about it. Like, I really want to kind of get someone who's more physical, but since I couldn't get Nate, instead, I got my brother-in-law, Colin. Colin was most likely showing me how to, do stunts, how to take a knife from someone or something like that. Like the scene where you see me like trying to flip myself back onto my feet. He actually was trying to show me how to professionally do that. Since I couldn't, I had to kind of do it the sloppy way. So basically showing how, sloppy Sonic has gotten, now. But for this, I feel like I did came up with a better story, because you feel like that I feel like that you're watching a story where you're not feel like you're watching like just two people fighting. Like here on the other side of the corner, you have someone who's professional at fighting but hasn't done it in a long time. And here you have someone who's most likely professional at, just kicking ass, basically. So the ideas I wanted to come up with were like I wanted to get I the ideas I came up with came from certain movies or certain parts from movies. Like the scene where Colin cuts me in the face. I got that from Mission Impossible 2. The scene where the main bad guy and Tom Cruise are fighting, he pulls out a knife and cuts Tom Cruise's face. So that scene, I actually referenced that. A couple of things I also referenced were where William actually does the voice of Snively, or as he likes to call it, Snively. Yeah, but certain parts I had to do. The one scene I know I definitely referenced was from Star Wars. A scene where C-3PO says to Luke Skywalker, "If you don't need me right now, I'll shut myself down." And I kind of used that reference into this one. And also, William also recognized where I got that line from. But like I said, a lot of work came from this one. So pretty much I had to get new things in order to finish this film. I had to get a new computer, a new camera, and it worked out pretty well. Unlike Sonic Begins, it took me like a year and 4 months to get made, and you're probably saying, why is it so short? And Blue Blur Eggman's Revenge, it took me like 9 months. There were certain delays that happened, but we got it done, as soon as possible. But for this one, it took me like a year, not a year, but it took me like probably almost 2 months. And I mean almost 2 months. It really almost took me 2 months, and it really almost took me like a few months to get done in certain parts. And when we were done filming, I wanted to kind of, film more into it. But instead, I couldn't do that. I didn't want the runtime to be as long as possible. And there were certain scenes I had to delete, which would have been perfect, but I just didn't want this to be a very long movie. I mean, a really long movie. I didn't want it to be 40 minutes long or 50 minutes. So instead, I wanted to still kind of have it be like, 30 minutes or 35 minutes, a little longer. But to be honest, I just wanted to do what I could for this one. And this one, I do feel like has a better story and has probably better character development than the first two. I still like the second one a lot better because there's like better special effects. The first one, we didn't rely too much on special effects. We relied on action sequences and just that. But pretty much, guys, I enjoy doing these movies, and this isn't the last movie I'm doing. Just because it's just because it says final chapter, we're not going to stop making movies. I promise you that.